Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. Today I'm excited to welcome a guest who brings sharp strategic thinking and practical insights into the world of business growth and innovation. Mariam Garcia is the founder and CEO of Strategy and Growth, a consultancy helping companies accelerate performance, scale sustainably, and future-proof their operations. With a sharp eye on how AI is reshaping the business landscape, Mariam helps leaders not just adopt technology, but align it with real strategy and long-term goals. She's here today to share her perspective on where AI is actually moving the needle, how to avoid getting lost in the hype, and what every founder or leader should be thinking about as we move deeper into the AI era. Mariam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to talk about a topic that for me, I'm very passionate about AI, so I'm excited.
Well, really glad to have you. Can we talk first about your journey? What led you to founding Strategy and Growth, and how did AI start to play a role with the services you deliver?
Yeah, so I started Strategic Growth when I was 17, so about a year and a half ago. And I started getting into business because I was in grade 11 in Canada. We don't use like junior and senior, we just say the numbers. So I was in grade 11, and I was starting to look because I was starting to have to apply to universities. And I was starting to realize that I had this idea that I was going to go into the medical field. Um, Long story short, it wasn't working out for me. So I realized that I'm going to have to pivot and I'm going to have to change the direction that I thought I was going to go into. So entrepreneurship is very strong in my family. And my dad, my uncle, my parents have multiple businesses. So I've always been surrounded by it, but I never really took it seriously. But then as I started kind of digging into their stories and kind of finding out what they were doing, I started to realize that's something that I might like to do. Um, so I started Strategy Growth early 2023. Um, and it's always more or less stayed the same. It's kind of like a marketing. Really, what I've been trying to do is help people get the leads, the clients that they need to keep their businesses running. And then I started using AI, I would say probably mid 2024, I would say is really when I started to see that it was getting popular. Before that, I had only ever used like ChatGPT, the very basic level of ChatGPT. But then I started to realize more and more that um, there's a lot of opportunity when it comes, especially when it comes to like online businesses like myself. And I started doing a little bit more research. Started listening to like podcasts and watching videos. Um, and then another reason why I realized that I need some kind of support was I started going to university. But so I was a university student and I was a business owner, and it was a lot to manage because I was just doing it by myself. I didn't have like a team or anything. So I started to realize that right now, at the time, I couldn't afford to, hire somebody full time and pay them a salary. So I had to look into other alternatives. And so that's really kind of what pushed me to look into AI.
Fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit more about what functions for your own business you have found success with leaning on AI.
Yeah, so on the most basic level, I mean, of course, ChatGPT, writing my emails, writing my captions, my video scripts. Um, I also have GPTs that help me. For example, I have a client that we always run the same campaign, just kind of like the concept of the campaign changes, but the template is always the same. So I've built a GPT based on that. And so every month I just put in the information, the details of the campaign, and it writes all the emails, all the social media captions, video scripts, all at one time. So I don't have to kind of go individually prompt it over and over again. It already knows what we're looking for in that campaign. Um, and then on a higher level, I also use something called HeyGen, which is a video avatar creator. And so basically I can clone myself or my clients, and we can make videos. So my podcast, I use HeyGen to kind of create these videos for myself because I'm sure, editing takes a long time. And so what I realized is that instead of having to record myself and, take 3 hours to edit a small video, I would just put my text into HeyGen, and then it was automatically generated. And then I also offer AI, like an AI conversational bot. So we use Closebot for SMS. So, they can instantly respond, but not in a robotic, typical AI way, in a very like conversational, very human way. And then we also use Nova Echo for voice calling, which is absolutely incredible. It's better than a lot of, virtual assistants that I know. When it comes to speaking, it's very clear. It's enunciates its words really well. Um, and yeah, I would say that's mainly where I use AI right now. But it's definitely very involved in my business.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great overview. And, I loved your description of a GPT. Among my audience, I have people that are all along the range of understanding AI. So, I might ask some, in our conversation, I might ask you to explain, but I thought that was a great explanation of GPT and all the tools you're using. And it really does seem to be a key part of being an AI consultant is the ability to explain what's happening and what it's used for. What kinds of businesses do you typically work with? What are some similarities between them?
So I mostly work with small to mid-sized businesses.
Okay.
Some of them are like local based home renovation. Some of them are also like online businesses that offer kind of similar consulting, marketing services. Um, and I would say that the main thing that I see in common with all of them is the need to be able to scale, and the need to often when I have a client and we have our first onboarding call, they're always like, I have so many ideas for my business. Like, I want to do this, I want to do this, but I just can't because I'm always on the phone or I'm always, at appointments or I'm overwhelmed. I can't send emails. I forget to send emails. So I think the most important thing, regardless of what business you're in, is really automating the small tasks, whether it's, sending a follow-up email or, sending a review once, like, for example, I have a client who's a real estate agent. Um, and before, when we first met in the onboarding call, he was like very overwhelmed. And even during our actual meeting, he was trying to answer the phone. He had like two phones. I was like, okay, we need to take a step back. And we need to see where can we automate, all the emails, all the documents, things like that. So I would say amongst the clients, the most important thing, the thing that we really focus on is trying to take away your attention from like small menial tasks and really letting you shine why you started the business, whether you started for home renovation, real estate, etc.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree with that, and it's like it amplifies the concept of marketing automation, where certain things were automatic, like for instance, we both use the Go High Level platform, and one of the default functions is the missed call text back, but AI takes that the next step to just saying like, hey, sorry we missed your call. It can understand the response and continue the conversation. Really cool. I think it is a real enabler for small businesses, like you said, that want to scale in particular. Now, in these early conversations with your clients, like a new client, they're pretty overwhelmed. There's a lot to learn about marketing. There's a lot to learn about the marketing technology. And then you add AI on top of that. Where do you usually start? How do you help someone with technical skills, like a real estate agent or maybe a general contractor? Where would you start on the marketing topic for them?
Um, I always say to start with one bottleneck. So, you know, I'm sure every business owner has multiple pain points, whether it's struggling with marketing, graphics, starting advertising, or following meta policies. So I would say find the biggest problem, the one that you need to focus on right away. Let's say your issue is you're good with the marketing, you're getting the leads, but then you don't know how to follow up. So, okay, let's focus on that. You might have other issues as well, but let's focus on one thing first. Let's get that settled and then move on. Because I think the thing with AI as well is people get very overwhelmed because there is a lot of opportunity and it moves really fast. There's changes all the time. You have to keep up with it. And so I think that's kind of what pushes people away, this feeling of being overwhelmed, which I completely understand. So I always like to go very slowly. I like to present all the potential opportunities, but I only like to focus on one or two pain points at a time. So that way we can go like baby steps. So that way, we're not making too many mistakes. You're not feeling overwhelmed because as an agency, what I'm trying to do is make your life easier, make it more automated, make it simpler. So, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to approach it. And most people can understand the concept of a bottleneck. If you explain it in those terms, it's helpful to say, like, well, I get a lot of voice messages, but I don't have time to return them, or I have a lot of people asking for pricing, but it's annoying to fulfill all those requests. And people, I think, get that. And just going one at a time and fixing those issues one at a time is definitely a great approach. So with AI tools in particular, you mentioned several that you like HeyGen and Closebot and others. Was it Nova was the voice one you used? Is that right?
Echo.
Nova Echo. Okay. And so I'm just curious, and I'm happy to share some that I've really liked. Are there any other like niche AI tools that you've liked, that you've played around with, or enjoyed, or I love the way you're using agents on ChatGPT. I think that's really cool. But any other unique ones that have come to mind?
Um, I don't know about niche. I think they're
Mhm.
pretty popular, but I
Sure.
I'd still like to bring them up. I use 11 Labs for
Okay.
if I'm ever making like shorts or real voiceovers.
Okay.
That's really great. I also use TurboScribe AI,
Oh,
which for one of my clients, we do YouTube optimization. So we upload their YouTube videos. And we always like to make sure that the caption, the tags are related to the video. So instead of having to watch the 1 hour video, I put it through TurboScribe. It transcribes it, and I can download like the SRT file, which is like the subtitles. I can download the transcription. And then I can feed that to ChatGPT, and it instantly can make the timestamps for me or the caption for
cool.
me. And that's just kind of another way that I like to automate, so I'm not sitting there like having to go through the video. Okay, even like making the chapters, I used to have to do it by hand, but now I just can feed it to ChatGPT. I tell it how long the video is, and it can instantly make accurate timestamps. So that's another one, TurboScribe. That's a good one. Let me see. I would say those are kind of the two that are a little more on the niche
Okay.
side of
Yeah.
things. Yeah, I mean, I also use like Claude,
Okay.
um, but that's not necessarily niche.
Yeah, and basically, I'm just always polling people I talk to, like, what's an AI tool I haven't yet experimented with, and a few of these I have not, so I'd like to try them out. I, I've been playing around a lot with this Cursor. Have you heard of Cursor? So it's an app for producing code, and having a lot of fun with it. Like, so far I'm realizing my shortcomings creative in the sense of, like, I don't have great ideas for creating an app, but the ideas that I'm copying, like I've made an ROI calculator that I can put on a web page for
Yeah.
certain things. And then I made a marketing persona generator based on a form, and so it calls to OpenAI. Now, again, that's with zero coding experience. I just plugged in instructions into Cursor, and it set up the Google Firebase server for me, and it was so
Mhm.
cool. So anyway, yeah, I love experimenting with all of these. Just really, really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I have noticed that there's an instinct in many of my clients, especially those that haven't used AI, that they want to protect the warmth and kind of like the relationship of their communications with their clients, and they're like wary that AI sounds too robotic. Now, how does that conversation? I'm sure you've had those conversations too. Um, how do you navigate that, and like how do you assure clients that it can be okay to use AI for certain things?
Yeah, so in October 2024, I released a book called AI You and Me. And it was inspired essentially by a question that I kept getting of, how do you reconcile using AI when it could take away jobs, when it could replace humans, you know? And in the book, I kind of wrote like a letter and I signed it by me. And basically, what I was saying is that AI is the enabler of human passion, that AI is just a tool, and that humans have always evolved. And I always like to use the example of the Victorian era when, in the Industrial Revolution, when machines were first coming out, people were so hesitant. These factories are going to take away our jobs. And instead, it produced this beautiful Industrial Revolution, and now we're here today. And so I think there people are kind of creatures of habit. We're always, hesitant about new change, especially when it comes to technology. And these doubts are not without reason. Of course, there are absolutely ways that AI can be used for the wrong, but that's like with anything powerful, I think. Um, and so I always like to remind, my clients that AI should be supporting you. When we're creating AI conversational bots or we're doing Hey Gen videos, we're always personalizing it to you. We're using your tone, your voice, your face,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really what we're trying to do. We're really trying to empower you, because at the end of the day, AI is not humans, right? And it's just a tool. And I think that it's a very powerful tool that we can use to lift each other up, and to give ourselves opportunities that we didn't have before, that I probably wouldn't be able to be running my business the way that I am, without AI. So that's what I would say. And I think, there's always a balance, of balancing, especially when it comes to like automation, always balancing it so that you still have that strong sense of the human touch.
Yeah. That reminds me, I was experimenting with a voice AI bot for outbound marketing for my own agency. It would place a number of calls simultaneously. So I'd get a lot of feedback really quickly based on the responses that were recorded. And fairly often people would respond angrily about the fact that they recognized that this was an AI tool. I mean, I get the anger about being contacted by a telemarketer. That's well established. But there was like another level up of anger of being contacted by an AI bot. And I'm kind of laughing because it goes along with your story. Like, you don't have to be mad about it. It's inevitable. Like, we're going to see more functions replaced by AI. And is it causing you harm that you have this more efficient, even more intelligent or faster program that is interacting with you? Like, is it really cause to be angry? But like, people just get angry at things that are new, and it's I think it's a process to get used to it. And you're young and doing really impressive things, but I think you are kind of in like, you're a digital native. You're almost like an AI native, and where people like my age, it's a little bit of a labor to get there. So I imagine you spend a lot of time working with people, like assuring them, like, hey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be a tool that really helps you.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I try to be, more present online and a little bit more vocal about like AI use, because I want people to see that it's like it's everybody, even me. Like I'm a female teen entrepreneur. That's such a niche thing. So that, there's like different voices. It's not just coming from, like a tech billionaire or something like that. Like, no, AI is for everybody, and it's offering opportunities to, just like the average person. So I think that's really what I'd like to highlight.
So one interesting side topic is the ethics of AI, and maybe this is something you've thought about, like both the ethics of using it, and sometimes there's some questions about the kinds of outputs it produces. Recently, a couple weeks ago, they released a friendly chat GPT. Maybe you had that experience, and all of a sudden it was responding to every question I said with like, hell yeah, that's a great question. I was like, oh, come on. Like, that was a little off-putting, but in terms of ethics, what are some of the things you consider and think about with AI and its use?
So when it comes to like the ethical use of AI, I mean, I'm very pro AI.
Mhm.
I think it's about being transparent, especially about your use of AI, how you're using it, with other people. And I think a great example I can show is HeyGen, because it's like a video clone of you.
Mhm.
And so they have very strong like security. The person who are, so for example, if I can clone someone else, but I have to get their consent, they have to record like a 3-minute video of them saying, I consent to this, blah, 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 blah. And I think that just goes to show that with AI, um, you know, like I said, that it's very powerful, and if it gets into the wrong hands, absolutely it can be used for wrong. Um, but I think it's just about being transparent, being secure, doing a little bit of research into, like data privacy and security, and, reading those terms and conditions to see if you're comfortable with that kind of use. Um, and with all my clients, I mean, we're always very transparent. We're always, reading them every clause and, helping them understand. So not to scare them or anything, but just so that they're prepared and that they're aware of what tools they're using and what they're going to be involved in, let's say.
You just made me think of a product idea, an AI agent that reads terms and conditions and gives you Cliff's notes of because I mean, how many times a day are we, agreeing to terms and conditions? So,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
no, that's great. So just maybe in parting advice for business owners, just on the whole, like you've given us so much wisdom here. Do you think that there is like we can really look forward to in the next 1 or 2 years about AI that might give us some enthusiasm for the future of AI?
Um, I would say the rise of like autonomous agents.
Hmm.
So, not just tools that are like, the basic ChatGPT, using it like Google. I would say more like OpenAI's operator that can physically do things on your screen. Um, and so I think that is what we're going to see in the next year and a bit, is AI becoming not just like a browser or something you can search up on, but actually scheduling your appointments or booking I don't know what for you. I mean, OpenAI's operator is very powerful. It can interact with your screen. It's kind of like screen sharing. And so that's what we're seeing already. So I can't imagine in a year, with the rate that AI is moving, I think autonomous agents are definitely going to be like the most powerful thing that's going to come out of this.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I mean, it's kind of exciting because you just identified a few tasks that I hate, like booking travel, you know, um,
Yep.
like
Yep.
that would be fantastic to delegate. Well, Miriam, it's been so great to talk to
Absolutely.
you, and you're so impressive. Where can listeners find you if they'd like more information about your services and strategy and growth, and if they'd like to work with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at strategygrowthroi.com. You can book an appointment, we can have a chat and see where you're at and how we can help you. And if you want to just kind of follow my online journey, you can follow me at IM_Mariam Garcia on Instagram. And yeah, I'm always posting cool stuff that I'm doing, podcasts that I'm going on, books that I'm writing. So would love to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll include these links in the show notes. And really looking forward to, staying in touch. We're doing some very similar things, and I've learned a lot in my conversations with you. So thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.